everybody's been waiting for. Effective funding systems. As we all know in the room, the state has been involved in a lawsuit for a number of years, known as the Roth case. And after the first decision of the Roth case, the state engaged the services of Augenblick and Myers to create a funding model for the state of Ohio. That funding model was essentially what is referred to as the Successful Schools model. And after that model was developed, that model was developed on the premise of you can identify successful schools by looking at the performance of their students on the state's performance examinations, and also looking at how much resources the districts were spending. So in essence, when you identify the top test performers and you identify who is spending the least amount of money, that's how the model, determined the districts that would be used to identify what an adequate education would cost the state of Ohio. Then, in the early part of the 2000s, the state went to the building blocks model, and the building blocks model really put an emphasis on identifying those services that would help create a high-quality education for students, and it placed a lot of emphasis on professional development and technology costs. And then the building blocks model, I think for the first time in the state's efforts to address the Roth case, recognized that not only outputs were important, but also inputs were important in terms of determining a school funding model. The inputs that the building blocks model developed, again, were developed by really through a professional judgment or a research-based approach to identifying, what were the critical elements of a high-quality education in Ohio. But in our opinion, over the years, in order to try and address the court's decision in the Roth case, we have tried a number of different fixes in the state of Ohio, a patchwork of different fixes to the school funding formula, such as the 23 mil charge-off, gap aid to cover the differences between the 20 mil floor and the 23 mil charge-off, increased parity aid funding, and the creation of the parity aid supplement in itself, and then ongoing guarantees. At one point, the budget before the governor's first budget, we had, I think, 4 or 5 guarantees in that budget. In our first budget, we reduced those guarantees down to 1 guarantee. And so, guarantees is, again, one of those types of fixes, if you will, that has been created over the years to address for the inadequacies and the inefficiencies of the school funding model. And we think these fixes have added a certain level of complexity to our school funding system, and they often operate in inconsistent ways with each other, and they clash with each other in a number of cases. And although the building blocks approach added value, it has failed to address the core findings in the Roth case, and that is local revenue disparities can significantly undermine the state's obligations to assure that every child in the state of Ohio had at least an adequate level of education as constitutionally required. And 2, that an education funding model should be designed to meet our constitutional obligation to our children and ensure that local revenue disparities will not result in an inadequate education for our children in the state. But lastly, what the court said is that the state must develop a systemic and comprehensive approach to ensure a thorough and efficient system of education is provided for every child in the state of Ohio, regardless